Hey everyone. Uh Sorry for the little bit of hiatus that I had. I'm still trying to get back in the swing of things. I got a really bad case of bursitis uh a couple weeks ago, and it was that bad I couldn't move my right arm. So I was out of commission for a little bit. But we're starting to get back into it. Starting to get a little bit more mobility in it. So uh, I figured I may as well get some more jigs ready. I don't know what the rest of this winter is going to look like, but it looks like we might have an early spring, but take that with a grain of salt because when it's warm like this in the wintertime usually means that by the end of this month and into March, it gets cold and nasty. So without further ado, we're going to get started here. In the vise, we have a 1/4 ounce poison tail jig, and it's done with a 3/0 owner twist lock flipping hook. Expensive, yes, but it's got that Zoe wire. So if you wanted a smaller uh, 1/4 ounce swim jig and you wanted it more heavy duty, uh, this is the way to go. Because it's a 30-degree bend, and obviously it's a flipping hook, so it's got a massive bite to it, really, and that's what I call it, a HD swim jig. So let's get started with some 210 denier flat wax nylon thread in olive, and the color is melon pepper chartreuse. That's what it is. It's very easy. It's just watermelon with a little bit of chartreuse on the head. Um, and we have one color of skirt material, which is this watermelon pepper chartreuse tips. And uh, one of the things we're going to do with this is we're going to tie it in a umbrella style. So when you're doing that, the first thing you got to do is determine, because this is a tip color, you can't just simply trim the ends to where uh, you want it, because if you make it too long, you'll end up cutting most of the chartreuse off. So what you want to do is figure out where you want the end of your material. Now, for me, I like it just a little bit beyond, maybe an inch and a half beyond the bend of the hook with a swim jig. 2 inches is fine, whatever you care for. But what I do to get my length right is I kind of look at where the solid end, where it starts to get into the cuts. And I put my fingers there, and then I get it to where I want it behind there. Now this is the very end of the head, so you figure it's going to curve over a little bit. So I'm going to just take maybe 1/8 of an inch more, and that is where I'm going to want to start my tie-in. Right there. So flip it over. Just fold it over just to make sure. And it looks pretty good. And as always with my swim jigs, when I make a swim jig, I prefer a thinner skirt. Uh, it flares more. It has more movement to it. So you're in a lot more action with less material. And it works the same way with hair. You always hear that less is more. And that's why, because there's more area for the material to move. If you get a heavy skirt, it all mats together and it doesn't get as much movement. It creates a nice bulky profile. But with a swim jig, you're looking at this skirt waving around behind there, sort of creating a movement effect as if it was swimming along on its own. So I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to add my second color, my second tab. Now the one thing, I should say another thing that you want to be cognizant of with this when you're tying it in an umbrella style is you want to make sure that when this is folded over, both of your ends are very close. It's going to be one of the hard things to pick up on. It's not bad with the regular skirt material, I should say that too. But when you're doing a tip color, it changes it because again, you're going to uh, essentially your finished end is right after you're done tying it. All you're going to do is cut the strands free. So it's a very critical that you have your ends close. And what I do is I'm going to make a couple wraps on the collar here, get it nice and tight to get my maximum flare. And then, got to get my scissors. These are scissors I just picked up, and for this type of jig, it's really nice. These are the Loon razor scissors. They're a little on the expensive side, but you see how that tip is, how it's very fine. And you got this knurled end here. You see that little thing? You can tighten this. One end has micro serrations that grips the material and the other end slices through it. So it's thin that it lets you get in real tight. When I do these umbrella style jigs, I like cutting off the material so it's right against that, right against my collar. So that way I only have to add a little bit of thread and it completely covers it up. And this, like I said, this razor scissor really lets me get in there and get close without me cutting the thread. And this is probably the hardest part of this style. And you don't even have to do this, to be honest with you. You could just take it, lop it off, and you'll be perfectly fine. But I like to go the extra mile. It's the same way with, you know, paint colors. We could get into a long debate over whether, real fancy colors like the Nova Stone paints, if it really does, help you or if it's just, unnecessary. And I would say most of the paint is to an extent unnecessary because you always see the guys on the message boards, oh, bare lead is really good. And it's true. The same way your $1 Walmart spinner baits work. But that's fine when the fish are biting. But this is what I always say to people. Like I fish in an area where it's really congested. It gets a ton of pressure. And having something that you can use that the fish haven't seen before but is still appealing. You're like trying to mimic bait fish colors and things of that nature. Well, sometimes that makes all the difference. It's what you want to make of it. I always figure if I'm going through the trouble of making my own tackle, I'm going to make it that gives me the most confidence in using it. And if it's fancy paint, so be it. It's fancy paint. Um, but I think if I didn't think it helped me, I wouldn't use it. But I do believe, uh, fish get conditioned. I've seen it. I've also seen it like with um, fishing for smallmouth where I live. Uh, I've seen where they would ignore a darker shade of green pumpkin or a lighter shade of green pumpkin. I couldn't tell you why. And I think if you knew the reason why fish bite something, uh, and when I say if you knew it, if you knew exactly 100% without a doubt why a fish bites something, you'd be a millionaire. Because let's face it, if you could, you'd be able to win every tournament you fished. You'd be able to, um, whatever you made would be successful because you know what makes the fish bite. All we got is generalizations. That's all we have. So we try to do the best with those generalizations. If you could tell I haven't been doing this for a while, it's because I can't shut up. And I apologize for that. But I haven't seen you guys in a while, so it's kind of all stuck in my head. I have to get it out. So I take a little bit of Loon water-based head cement. And take my big scissors, and all I'm going to do is just cut the very end, go through it where some of them are stuck together because the cuts, as you've all experienced before, um, sometimes them solid ends aren't exactly even, and the cut starts a little bit further down on one, uh, on a few strands than it does on other strands. So you make sure that you're all separated. And now we're going to take it out, and I'm going to put my weed guard in here with a little bit of a Loctite super glue gel. Just a little bit. Push our weed guard in there. Get my material, make sure it's not stuck together. And there is your heavy duty poison tail umbrella style swim jig. Plenty of room for your trailer. And more importantly, you got a lot of room with them strands that you're going to get a lot of action. I mean, just moving it around, you could see how much the strands move. So there you have it. Give it a shot. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.